Good morning, Joe. I'm sorry I'm so late.
Good morning, Farmer Jones. Good to be here. Good to see you.
Well, we're here this morning. Can you kind of give me what we need to do to prepare this garden or gardens that we might select at where we want to put our spots and so forth?
People have big expectations for the garden, and a lot of them end up being disappointed later in the year. One thing that y'all have done extremely good here is picking a good site, because too many people try to put their garden up next to their house or next to the barn, and you don't have sunlight getting onto that garden, and sunlight is a requirement for plant growth, and so you've got a good location here.
Good.
The other thing that you've done is started early before planting season, getting your land ready. You've already plowed this once, that's good. You've got a good soil type. Now then, you know, when we talk about soils, there's a lot of variation. In fact, right here on this very site, you can look around and see where plants are growing very well, other places where there's very few plants growing. Well, most of the cases, that's because of the soil type. Even in your garden area here, you have some different colors of soil, which means that you've got a different type of soil. We have sand, we have silt, and we have clay soils. If it's a pure sand, that's not too good, because what you actually have is a soil that won't hold any moisture and it's not going to hold any nutrients. You go to the other extreme and you have a real heavy clay soil, which is a real fine soil. You've got the other problem. It holds all the water, and as a result, well, you're going to drown those plants out and suffocate them, and so that's a problem. So you're really wanting kind of a mix in between.
Last year we probably had 20 inches of rain on this plot in about 4 months, so we had a water problem.
And right here on this soil, you know, what you can do to tell how much clay you have in it is take moist soil and put it between your thumb and forefinger, and if it's clay, it'll go out there 2 or 3 inches before that'll break off.
Oh, all right.
And on sand, of course, it'll just fall off just as soon as you get past your finger. So,
I didn't know
this is a good soil here. You've got one that will hold moisture, but yet it'll allow those plants' roots to actually breathe. One thing that you need to know is what nutrients you actually have in the soil, so that you'll know what to put onto the soil, and also the pH. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. I know that may be above some head. It probably doesn't mean anything to you, Farmer Jones, but but it has a lot to do with that plant, and that plant will let you know. So, again, to be successful, you need to know the nutrients in the soil, and the way you do that, I have a soil probe here. You want to take a sample 6 inches deep. So what you do, just stick that in the ground, have it marked on there where your 6 inches are, and then you pull it out, and you have a 6-inch sample. All right. Then you want to put it in a clean container. Now, I know your wife probably has a mop bucket that you say, well, I'll just use that mop bucket. No, you don't want to do that.
No.
Because soaps have phosphorus in them, or a lot of them do, and so it can skew your results. So you want a clean container, and a baggie works real good. So you would put that into that bag, and then you'd go and take random samples going all across your garden. You're going to send that off, and again, that's another reason why you want to start your gardening year early, because it's going to take a couple of weeks to get the results back from that. They're going to send you a sheet back, and it's going to have all these numbers on it. And you're going to look at them, and again, you're going to wonder, what does all this mean?
What does all that mean?
But it's going to tell you what your pH is. pH has to do with the acidity, or how alkaline your soil is. It's a logarithmic scale, goes from 1 to 14. And say, all right, what does that mean? Well, 7 is a neutral soil. That means it's neither acid or alkaline. If it's below 7, it's acid. If it's above 7, it's alkaline. What you would prefer is a pH around that 6 to 7 range. Well, what do you do if that pH isn't in between that 6 and 7, or just a little over 7? You can raise pH very easy. You can buy lime, put it on, work it into the soil, and that'll raise the pH. And so that's easily done, and in most cases, that's the problem you'll have. If it's a too high pH, that's a little more difficult. Sulfur is the element that you would use to lower it, but it's awfully difficult to lower your pH.
To lower your pH much.
So again, you would want to try to get a soil that has a pH in that 6 to 7, just maybe a little over 7. Now then, as far as your nutrients, it's going to tell you what nutrients you're going to need to apply as far as nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium.
Good.
And it'll generally say on most results to put so many pounds per 100 square feet.
Okay.
Well, you remember the first number is your nitrogen, the second one is phosphorus, and the third one is potassium.
Right.
You need all of those for plants to do well, because nitrogen is for top growth, phosphorus is really for your root development.
Root develop.
And so, you know, they each have a part that they would play. Your potassium helps as far as drought tolerance and a number of other areas, but you need all three of them in the amounts that it calls for. Another rule of thumb on fertilization is you're better off putting smaller amounts on a regular basis than you are putting it all out there at one time.
Put it out in small amounts over several periods, over
You probably
every
ate
20
breakfast
days.
this morning.
Yeah, I did have breakfast this morning.
Did your wife fix you lunch and supper also
Nope,
this morning and
she
set it
did
on the
not.
table?
She didn't do that.
Well,
now.
all right. Your plants are the same way.
Same
They
thing.
like to have it spread out over time. So
that makes sense, doesn't it? We have some varmint problem around this part of the country. We have deer that roam through occasionally. My neighbor has 4 goats over here, and they come in quite often. Of course, they like this. They like this good fresh plants that we put out here. So if you would kind of go over with us what we might do with that.
Again, you related some extremes there as far as predators are concerned.
Yeah.
Goats, generally you can fence those out. So I'd talk to my neighbor and try to get him to put up a fence to keep his goats on his own property. I noticed that you do have an electric fence over here.
Yeah.
That works extremely well on goats.
Works well.
Problem is you have deer also here.
That's correct.
That's not very tall. A deer just jumps over it and comes on in.
Yeah.
Deer can be a problem, especially in a dry year, because you have the only green plot of ground around in that garden, and they're going to come from around to get into there. And a deer can jump 5, 6, 7 foot fence. So a lot of people try to fence them out, and you're going to have an 8 foot tall fence or so to really be successful in keeping them out. Another problem that we have that a lot of people don't realize is rabbits.
Yes, that's true. We have cottontails all around this part of the country.
I have seen even in commercial plantings of like cantaloupe, where that they will go straight down that row getting every plant whenever they're just beginning to come through.
Like
when
that fresh green
Like
stuff.
that fresh green.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing out there. You've taken care of your weeds, so that's the only thing they have to eat. So again, a small chicken wire, mesh type wire around the edge of the garden, all the way around it, will keep your rabbits out.
Joe, we've talked about the big animals. Now let's talk about the little guys.
You're talking about the insects and stuff that are in the garden.
Bet.
Right. Do you realize and know that 98% of the insects are beneficial?
98? I didn't know that.
So that 2% does a lot of damage. So
Yeah.
the first thing is you have to know what it is that you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do you know this? Well, again, the Extension Office has lots of brochures, lots of literature that will identify the pest for different crops, or you can go on the internet now to the Land Grant University system, and generally you can go in there and identify what that pest is. And then you want to be selective in how you control that pest, because sometimes it may take a product that you would apply. Some of them you can take a water hose and wash them off.
Joe, we sure do thank you for being here today. You've been very informative.
And best of luck to you in your gardening.
Thank you. And you're a smart guy. And I have one more question
All right.
I'd like to ask you. And, you know, we get corn oil, I'm assuming, from corn.
Correct.
Okay. Well, where does baby oil come from?
Jerry, I don't know, but I picked up my granddaughter the other day and she leaked, but I don't know if that's the oil you're talking about.
Baby oil or not. Thank you, Joe. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I enjoyed it, and you have a good day.
You bet. I've got to get on with my plowing now.